Hey guys, welcome back to Unapologetically Me. I'm your host, Brandi, and it has been a minute. I know I'm trying to get better at that, like I said last time. And I also lost my voice last week, so that's why it sounds a little scratchy. It's just coming back. But I am excited to have a guest with me today. His name is Mr. T. Banks. We met on Facebook. We never actually met in person, so apparently that's something I like to do is have guests that I've never actually met. But I get to do this one in person with him. So it's good to finally meet him. I'm going to let him tell a little bit about himself. And then we'll get into our topics.
Great. My name is T. Banks. I am originally from Greensboro, Alabama, small town of a whole 2,500 people. And I've been in Nashville now since 1995. I came in to play football at Vanderbilt, and that's what brought me to Nashville. And now I'm celebrating going into next year, be 20 years. I've been in the real estate business, and my passions are golf and youth sports. So I've been fortunate to coach my son now for the last 8 years, and looks like now I'll turn my energies over to my daughter because my son will be playing middle school sports. So I'll still do all of his training just because I've played. I'm one of the few guys I know that played all of the major sports instead of most guys play one or two. I played actually 4 sports in high school. So that's what brought me to Nashville, and real estate is my passion, and kids and coaching youth sports and help out is something I just really, really love, and being able to see kids grow and learn about life through sport.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw you got to play golf with, now I can't think of his name.
Cat Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, playing golf, because that's one of my passions. So a lot of people know, I've been on this golf train for a while. So a lot of guys are just picking up the game, and I play competitively. So I like to travel. I play in tournaments.
Oh, wow.
And I like to bet money on the golf course. So we'll play, like a buddy and Kevin and I, we played last week for $5. But if you ever hear me and my buddies talk about it, you would think we played for $2,000 or $3,000. We play for $5, but it's something about just the spirit of competition that I really enjoy. And he Venmo'd me my $5. Not a lot of money, but for us, it's a lot. It's all about bragging rights, and I like being around people that like to compete. But Cat Williams was a first-class guy. Had a lot of fun, and he's funny, like in real life. Like I just spent time laughing at him for the comments he makes. So great experience.
That's cool. So I wanted to have you on my podcast because I love your Facebook. You are constantly posing questions on there to make people think, and they're not questions that are like, I'm trying to catch you in something or I'm trying to catch you up. It's like you're trying to gain perspective from other people's point of view as well. And that's kind of what drew me to wanting to have you on the podcast. And so I kind of scrolled back through your Facebook to some earlier posts, and I found one that said perspective. Just because you don't agree, it doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. Life experiences create different lenses. See clearly. I absolutely love that. So I don't know, did you make that up, or is that something you got from a book?
No, everything that I post on Facebook particularly is just straight from the gut. Like a lot of times people are like, man, what do you mean by that? And if something can hit me, I usually get up around 4:15, 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym at 5. And whatever hits me, I just shoot it from the hip. So that a lot of times I'm reading things, I'm like, I don't know if people understood the question or the phrase that I was trying to get off. Because sometimes I'm like, my English teacher will probably kill me for the way I write. But, it's just straight from the hip. And I think that's what goes on in life. A lot of times people have different experiences, and we want to project our experience and our perspective on someone else. And it doesn't mean that I'm right or you're right, or I'm wrong, you're wrong. We just have a totally different perspective. For some reason, I think that in today's time, people want to force their opinion, like their way is the only way.
Right.
Well, how can we grow if everybody thinks the same way?
Right.
That's just my opinion.
You're me in the male version. But I mean, that's literally, and that's why I started this podcast, because, all the stuff that's gone on in the last 2 years, I've just seen people that are losing friendships and relationships and family members over disagreements on how to handle things and on what to do. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, just because you think this is how something should be handled doesn't mean that works for everybody.
I have friends who are just like diehard Trump guys, right? Guys that I play golf with. And there are a lot of things that even when Trump was running around that I totally disagree with. There are some things that they disagree with.
Yeah.
I've seen people lose friendships based over politics in the last 2 to 3 years, right?
Yeah.
For me, regardless to how you feel about politics, even with religion, I have friends who are atheists, I have friends who are Catholics. It is okay to disagree. We just disagree on this, but it doesn't make you a bad person because you feel differently than I do. Now,
Right.
there are certain things that I'm just not going to give up on. I'm not going to change my perspective
Right.
on, because I think at the end of the day, you have to be a good human.
Yeah.
When you're not being a good human, then that's when I have to fall back and say, you know what, that is not right.
Right.
That is just not morally or ethically right.
Right. And I think the ultimate goal is never, at least for me, it's not really to change the other person's mind. It's just to give them a different perspective, just a different way to look at things. Like, I'm not trying to convince you to agree with me. I'm just trying to give you another side of the scenario.
You know, it's funny because a lot of posts that I make, people are like, well, what are you trying to say? I'm just giving my opinion.
Right. I'm not trying to say anything.
It's strictly my opinion. And it's okay that you disagree with how I feel, because I'm very strong in my values when it comes to me being a dad, because if I had a dad growing up and the lessons that he taught me as a kid when I was 8, 9 years old. Here I am celebrating today, my birthday. I'm 45 today.
I saw that. Happy birthday. I meant to tell you that when you came in.
So celebrating my birthday today, and now it's like one of those things where it's like I want to make sure I teach those lessons to my son.
Right.
And so, you know, depending on how you grew up, where you grew up, I also realized that growing up in the South, and my perspective as a Black male is going to be totally different than some of my friends who grew up in California, who grew up in New York, who grew up in Mexico. You know, the way we grew up kind of shapes who we are.
Right.
And I'm okay with that, because I've learned a lot from people who just aren't from the South.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey man, this is how we do it in the South. This is how we grew up, and this is the things that I was exposed to as a child and that I still see today.
Yeah, I cannot tell you. So, because I grew up in New Mexico, so the area that I grew up in was Roswell, New Mexico. It's southern New Mexico. And so it's a huge Hispanic population. So there, everybody's Hispanic. It doesn't matter if you're white, if you're Asian, if you're Black, you're Hispanic. Like, you do Hispanic traditions, you eat Hispanic food. And so when I moved to Tennessee, like, I didn't really think, I had been to other states, like we had traveled, but it was never long enough to really see what the culture was like there. So I didn't think culture shock was really a thing until I moved to Tennessee. And then I was like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? And it has been difficult to navigate because, as you said, like, I didn't really grow up in a Black community. And so I grew up more of my mom was Mexican, my dad's Black. And so my dad's family is from Ohio. Mm-hmm. So we hardly saw them. So it was just, stuff that would go on or stuff that people would say. And like, even conversations with my husband and I, like, would get intense because he grew up here. And so stuff that he experienced or whatever, I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't understand. So we have learned to communicate and to work through it, but it was definitely a struggle. Okay, so I want to get into some of the questions that I pulled from your Facebook that some of them I commented on and we disagreed about it. Some of them I don't know if I did comment on. So the first one was actually, I think, the last question that I did comment on. And that question that you posted was, what can we do to create a more competitive culture for youth sports in Middle Tennessee? So before that, you had made a post that said, salute to every youth basketball coach in America. Dealing with entitlement in sport is not something I will ever learn to deal with. Keep teaching the game that we love. Earned, not given is what my dad taught me, and I believe it. And then you made another post that said entitlement in youth sports does more harm than any part of the game. However, in your question, I think somebody commented to stop doing participation trophies, and I agreed with them. Mm-hmm. And you said, which correct me if I'm wrong, which you said that you were in agreement with participation trophies, like ages 4 to 7, to help build their confidence.
Correct.
So can you explain, because when I saw those other posts, then I was confused about, like, okay, why do you agree with participation trophies? Because in my eyes, that is what begins the entitlement. Mm-hmm. If you get especially at that young of an age, you're already instilling a level of expectation. Gotcha. So they expect to get a trophy from there on out. And then at 7, like, bam, nope, no more participation trophies. Now you got to earn it. So can you kind of explain, I guess, maybe the difference that you were trying to say in those two things?
Yeah. So participation trophies, in my opinion, for kids ages 4 through 8, because what are we trying to do? What is the point of youth sports in ages 4 through 8? And one of the most important things I want kids at that age to do is simply have fun. Kids develop at different speeds in sports. Mm-hmm. You're going to have some kids that are just going to be naturally gifted at 7 years old, and you're going to have one kid that has 2 left feet at 7 years old.
Yeah.
But I don't want that particular kid, in my opinion, to not have the confidence to continue that journey in playing. So by saying, hey, little Johnny, we're on this team. Everybody did a great job can be the difference in Lil Johnny coming back next year
Right.
to continue playing the sport. So that's why I like participating. Last night, we had our banquet last night, and all the kids got trophies, right? They got a trophy for being on the team. And of course, congrats to our team. We were fortunate to be able to beat a team out here that's Oakland.
Yeah.
We're able to beat them for the championship. And they have a great group of parents. Salute to all those parents and coaches over at Oakland. A great group of kids. So even though I was fortunate, happy we won, but it was one of those very competitive games where the kids competed. They left it on the field, and I felt like both sides got better. Last night at the banquet for Brentwood Blaze, when you watch kids who get, it's only, $3 trophy. It's not like it's a big investment.
Right.
But when you can see the smile, because there's a kid that I coached last year in a different league, and he's in this league now. And when you can see the smile that with him holding that little $3 trophy, he's going to come back next year. And I think at that age is where we got to think things are age specific, because I'm not going to train and talk to a kid that's in college football the same way I'm going to talk to a kid that's in 8th grade football.
Right.
I got to look, what is the goal now that you're 22 years old? I can't have the same conversation with you when you're 14.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I think participation trophies for kids that are young, because I want to keep it fun. And I also want them to keep coming back and playing the game and say, hey, great job. We'll see you again next year. So that's why I don't mind it at a young age. Now, when you get 12, hey, man, y'all didn't win. You didn't win, bro. Hey, you need to run some extra laps. Let's go.
So do you think, so this is what I think would be a good solution instead of participation trophies, which again, everybody wouldn't get one. But I remember in middle school, like we did a sportsmanship trophy. We did a most improved trophy or placard, stuff like that, so that you still can give more awards, but it's not saying like, hey, everybody did amazing, because I think that, as I said, it instills this kind of expectation that I don't have to put in any effort. All I have to do is show up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get to be 8, 9, 10 years old and they have to actually work and put in some effort, they're just like, well, I spent 4 years getting a trophy for doing nothing, and now you want me to actually have to try. And that's why I say at that young age, like they're still developing. That's when they're kind of learning what their expectations are. And I just think you have to set that expectation right away. So my daughter is in sports. She was in gymnastics, soccer, and they get participation medals. But I tell her every time, like, that's a medal for, like, you didn't win anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not an award trophy for you because you were number 1, 2,
so
or
watch
3.
this though. Watch this. Let's say you go to work. I'm gonna change your mind on this. Let's say you go to work for a company, and you go to work every day and you just doing what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this company says, hey, you know what? There are 30 people on the sales team. We just want to recognize everyone on the sales team and just give you a $50 gift card to Starbucks, right? It's just for the morale, because now, even though I wasn't the leading salesperson, because what you're saying is, and I worked at Gold's Gym. I was a sales manager there for 3 years. For 35 out of 36 months, I was number 1 in sales in the company out of 3 states, right? There was only 1 month that I wasn't. That's because I lost 2 family members. My grandmother passed and my aunt passed a week later. So that month I was out of town, and I still was coming back trying to work between the funerals.
Yeah.
Right. So if I give you $50 Starbucks gift card and say, hey, thank you, I just gave, even though you weren't the number 1 in sales, my only purpose in that is just to keep your morale high and to keep you wanting to come back on the sales team. And that's the whole purpose why I think a participation award at that age, because again, if you, 22 years old and you're playing for college, and hey man, I went 0-12. I can't give you something for just being on the team. You didn't win anything.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure even in college you'll still get something. You may get a ring, just a class ring or a Letterman jacket. You get something. But that's why I feel it's important sometimes, just that morale perspective of doing it. And it's just something that, I think is age appropriate. I don't.
Yeah.
I think up to 8 years old, I'm totally okay with it. Even last night at the banquet, my daughter's on cheer. And there were close to 100, right at 100 cheerleaders, right? So my daughter's, she'll be 7 next month. But she got a participation award. They gave all the little girls trophies. Only one girl got a particular award because she had been in cheer for 3 years, and they have to display. They had I forgot what it's called, but they honor one girl out of 100 and something. But they gave each little team, because they were like, out of 100 girls, say 10 teams, they gave them participation awards for showing up. You had to do certain things. You had to show up. You had to learn your cheers. You had to be a team leader. You had to display these different qualities. I got home last night. My daughter has this trophy right by her bed. It's her first year in cheer. She is so excited about coming back next year for a $3 trophy. So that smile on her face is why. And now she's not in competitive cheer yet.
Yeah.
But if I can keep her confident now, that when she gets to a point when she's 9 or 10 and wants to get in, if she decides to go into competitive cheer, she'll understand that, hey, now you got to work for it, because when you go to a competition now, it's only going to be the top 2 teams that are going to be recognized.
Yeah.
If your team comes in number 8, sorry, boo, we just got to go back and work on your flips. Like, hey.
So how do you think, because my daughter is doing competitive cheer, they actually had their first competition yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 7. And so I said she has gotten participation medals or whatever from 4 to 7 now. Mm-hmm. And how do you explain to her, if she does decide to do competitive cheer, how do you explain to her to change her mindset around like, hey, you don't just get this for just showing up anymore? Like,
exactly what you just said. You explain it to say, hey, these first 3 to 4 years, hey, this was fun. Now we got to, what I do with my son every year at the end of the season, and I've been really fortunate with my son in baseball. He was just named top 26 in the country, right? That's a really big honor. But people didn't understand, I wasn't trying to teach Champ about baseball. I was just trying to teach him to outwork yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I'm so ecstatic that we got the honor, but no one saw when we were in the batting cage at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night putting the work in. No one saw when we was out taking ground balls and his coach is slamming the balls and he's taking them off the shin. I mean, I'm talking about tears, like real freaking tears. And I'm like, God, they're going to kill my son. And I kept telling him, do you want it? Because right now we can go back to rec ball,
right,
where it's just fun and no one is really taking it that serious. But if you really want to go to the next level, you got to put the work in.
Right.
And that's what I'm teaching him now, because now he's 12. At 8, I didn't push him like that. I just wanted him to have fun.
Yeah.
I show him footage all the time. My son laughs because I'd actually sent it to his coach. 4 years ago to date, we were in the batting cage. When I tell you his hitting coach threw him probably 15 pitches and he may have hit 2 out of 15. I was like, God, this is not going to be the baseball in the family. and we were just talking, man, just keep having fun. I mean, he was getting so frustrated.
Yeah.
I said, man, just have fun. And now we don't really, and we're going to have fun. But the minute we got a rule, when you cross that line, you got to go dog mode.
Yeah.
Once you cross the line, football, basketball, or baseball, once you cross that line, the games are over. Now it's trying to annihilate your opponent.
Yeah.
That's what I teach now.
Well, and I think I still don't think that you convinced me about the participation trophy. But I do think that it's helpful, like, and obviously all parents don't do that, talking to their kids and explaining to them, that this age or this, if you're going to do rec, like, this is fun. So I mean, my daughter plays softball and soccer, but it's all rec. Gotcha. I don't push her in that stuff because I'm just like, you're just doing it for fun and I want you to have fun. And I don't want her to get to the point either where she's like, I hate this because it's so much work and I don't get
that
to
is
have
key
fun.
Though. That is key. You can't, and I know some kids, and I actually play golf with a couple of guys who they didn't want it, their parents wanted it.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of that comes to communication. See, Champ and I have a rule: if you want to play, you're gonna give me everything you got.
Yeah.
It's your choice if you're saying you want to be on this baseball team. But what we're not gonna do, and you'll hear me a lot of times in videos, I'm always gonna be saying, let's eat.
Yeah.
And EAT stands for effort, attitude, and teamwork. I came up with that 4 years ago. We actually have a t-shirt design that we sell to kids on hoodies: effort, attitude, and teamwork. These are things that you can control. And if you're not giving me max effort, you don't deserve to be on the team.
Yeah. If
you don't have a good attitude towards your teammates, your coaches, and about the sport, whatever it is that you're playing, you don't deserve to play. And I told my son as a champ, if it's not going to be about teamwork and your teammates, you need to go play golf. I can drop you off and you can go and walk 9 holes and play by yourself. Yeah. Because otherwise, and even in that, if you're playing golf, you're still going to have a caddy when you make it. So it's still got to learn teamwork. You got to learn to work with people. And I think that's where we as parents, sometimes we want to win. We want the best for our kids. And we forget what is the purpose.
Right.
Sport has taught everyone, I don't care what level you played at, there are lessons learned that I truly believe that you learn in sport that you cannot learn in a classroom.
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%.
And a lot of people don't. That's what I truly believe.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. And actually, I think I'm gonna go back to that one. So okay, so you had posted a question, and this one I don't think I did respond to. I'm not sure. But you asked, should parents teach their teens to remain virgins or have safe sex? Is the church a factor? So I don't know if you respond to that one either. So I'll let you answer that question, then I'll give my thoughts.
As you know, I grew up in the South, so I think a lot of it has to do with where you grew up and how you grew up. So times have totally changed, and luckily my son is 12, so I haven't even had to cross this bridge yet. So that's one of the questions that I pose on Facebook, because when people say it takes a village, I truly believe that. So a lot of times I get other parents who've already faced this to get
Yeah.
their feedback. They're like, how did you guys deal with this? I'm not afraid to ask parents,
Right.
like, what did you do when your son got caught with the little girl behind the school? Like, what did you do?
Yeah.
I know it's coming one day. What did you happen the first time your son came home and you smelled alcohol on his breath? So I want to be prepared.
Right.
And so when it comes to sex and kids, times have changed. Like I have friends whose kids have just finished high school and in college, and it is cool now for kids to have oral sex in schools now. That's a new thing now where kids are getting caught at school, and it's like common.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't the case when we were in school. And so that's why I even asked the question, like, what is the church? Because I feel like when I was growing up, especially in the South, it was taboo to really even talk about sex. It was just like, you don't do it. And then one thing I did not like about the church in particular was if a girl got pregnant, it was kind of like she was shamed.
Right.
Or you pregnant, you got to come up here and sit in the front on the morning bench and you got to pray. But I'm like, okay, she got caught, but all y'all was doing the same thing. You just don't have the evidence.
Right.
It's just, y'all was doing it too.
Yeah.
So your mom put you on birth control and she didn't. So now she's bad because you on birth control. Like I was confusing. So, I think that's where now we got to understand society has changed. And I just saw a video on Facebook this morning of a concert, and a man lays down on stage, and this lady, the performer, pulled her pants down and actually urinated on the guy's.
Are you serious?
Just go to, it's all over Facebook.
This was a concert?
A concert, live.
Wow.
She has on heels or boots. She pulls her pants down. The guy lays down. She literally urinates. And I didn't know that's like a fetish. I just found that out on the way here this morning, that people actually like to be urinated on. I'm like, I don't know if I'm old, but I'm really sorry.
Definitely not there.
Yeah, maybe I'm just too old. So that's when going back to the question about, sex and the role that the church. And I think the church now has kind of gotten quiet on a lot of social issues and things that we face. It's like, you can preach so much Bible, but how does that affect how people are living today?
Right.
That's cool to tell me what Joseph and Isaiah did, but how does this affect people's lives today and what they're dealing with right now in this era? Because social media has totally changed how people perceive things.
Yeah.
And I think the church can be more effective in it.
I definitely think so. Me growing up, we didn't really ever have a sex talk. I grew up in church, so they pushed the abstinence. It was abstinence, mm-hmm. which is fine, but you didn't tell me why. Yeah. You didn't tell me what's the pros and cons of this. Like outside of, like you said, shaming you if you get pregnant and you're going to hell if you get pregnant outside of marriage. Like outside of that,
what else?
Yeah, like what, so I try to, my daughter is 7 and we've had lots of conversations already because I want her to be comfortable, not specifically about sex,
I know what you mean.
but just, like the proper names for your anatomy, because I used to work for child welfare services. And one of the stories that they always use in training is there was a little girl who was staying with her uncle or something to that effect. And every time she would come home, her mom would ask, like, how was it at Uncle so-and-so's? And the little girl would be like, oh, he ate my cookie. Well, her mom taught her that her vagina is called her cookie. So the mom was like, oh, that's so cute. Like, your uncle ate your cookie. How funny. Turned out he was molesting her.
I learned that a friend of mine works in children's services. And that's why with my kids, like growing up, we learned the wee, the cookie, your like different little pet names for private parts. And my daughter from 3 years old, as soon as she's learning to talk, you have a vagina. My son learned you have a penis because I learned from someone. And again, one of the questions I pose of teaching kids real body parts because of what you said, because it can be a teacher, it can be a counselor, a coach, whatever, can use these little pet names and tell them it's okay. And because we don't use the real name and talk to our kids about this. So my kids know, my daughter's 7 and we talk about it even now. So she turns 7 next month Who can touch your vagina?
Yep.
Who can touch your butt? Who can look at your breasts?
Yeah.
Like my daughter is she'll close the door. My son that's a brother in the room next door. She closes the door because her brother can't see her get undressed.
Yeah.
Like that's how I'm teaching. But I learned that from someone that worked in children protect. Because growing up, we never thought about, making sure you use the actual name of your anatomy.
They make it like it's a bad thing. Like, oh, don't say penis.
Don't say penis.
Like, what?
I can't believe you said vagina. It's like, that's what it is, though.
Right. And my daughter and I, we have the same conversation since she was a baby, actually. Like, I know she couldn't talk, but I would tell her from day one, like the same exact conversation. I even go as far as like, what happens if somebody does touch you? Like, she's like, tell a teacher, tell you. What happens if they tell you it's your little secret? She's like, tell anyway. Yeah. And I even ask her about her. Are you allowed to touch anybody? Because I don't want her to think that it's just nobody could touch her, but she could have a free for all.
I had that conversation with my son because he's in middle school now. And he's a big kid. So I'm like, you do understand when you playing with girls now, you can't touch their butt. You can't accidentally touch their breast because it's different now. So
right.
Even though you may have no intentions, you got to keep your hands to yourself, man, because that one little girl that you may have not had bad intentions because feel that you did have bad intentions and your entire life will change.
Yeah, it's all downhill from there. Yeah. But yeah, so I think the church plays a big factor in it. Like you said, I mean, they kind of push back from a lot of issues. And I see a few, I don't know if they're pastors or ministers or what they are, mostly like on social media, who are very relatable. I don't see very many, but I see a few that are very relatable who they talk about like what's going on today, not like, and they might relate it back to a scripture, but they don't spend their time talking about the scripture. They spend their time talking about how does this pertain to my life now? And I think it makes it hard, like growing up in church to when you get older, learn how to navigate that. And even for like women to find their sexiness, because it's so like downplayed about how you have to be modest and you have to be, you can't wear this and you can't wear that. It kind of has the opposite effect where it's like you just kind of feel like you're in a shell and you can't do anything.
Well, see, that's the thing now that I have a question for you, because even as women, right, we always say that we men should not judge women by their bodies. They want us to judge by their minds and what they bring to the table. But if I were to open just your page, I don't even know who all your friends are, but 90% of the posts from females is going to be showing their butt, it's going to be showing their thighs and their breasts. Yeah. And it's nothing about, look at this beautiful business suit I wore today to work. It's going to be, look how big my butt is. Look how small. Everything is about, and I'm looking like, okay, like even women who work out now, it's nothing about being healthy. It's just about, look how big my butt is again. Yeah. Like, so are men wrong for saying, hey, man, we want that one, and that? Because we're visual creatures.
Right.
But I don't see, am I wrong for thinking that maybe women should say, you know what, this is what I do for a living. Like, this is my profession. Like, is that just a thing of the past now?
So all the feminist women are going to hate me because I had this conversation with a trainer the other day, even about my Instagram, because he basically was like, sex sells. So if you're posting if I'm posting information that's informative about health and about nutrition and about my workouts, if the picture isn't sexy, he's like, nobody cares. They're scrolling past it. And I'm just like, I hate that because I don't feel like I should have to put my body on display in order to reach people. But he's like, that's what social media is. That's how these people are getting their business. Like, and I can't wrap my head around it because I feel like there's a very thin line between, you should be able to wear whatever you want and be comfortable and not have people think that it's okay to touch you or whatever. But you also have to understand that we're mammals and men are animals, and that's how they're designed. I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's how they're designed. They are designed to hunt. And if you are showing me things that I like, I'm going to want to hunt you. Yeah. Now, you obviously, if a female tells you no, then you need to respect that. But I can't wrap my head around being like, oh, well, I'm showing you all this, but I think you need to like look away and ignore me. Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy.
That's one of the things that I debate because I'm in the gym all the time and in the mornings, and there are a lot of women who have stories of, how much weight they've lost and what the story. So a lot of times I even watch how they post, and you watch women. I look at the difference with women with kids, how much sometimes they're, I think, too conservative. I'm like, you look good. Like, you should be proud of it. And I have some friends who really turn their bodies around and spend a lot of time in the gym. But social media has changed it now because I think it puts pressure a lot of times on some women. They
Yeah.
have to look at, I ain't gonna lie, I like the pressure as a guy because there are three guys like Jarrell Webb. Big up to Jarrell if he's on. There are a lot of trainers, Kevin Brazil, there are a lot of guys who spend, James Crumlin, there are a lot of guys in Nashville who spend a lot of time in the gym taking care of their bodies.
Yeah.
And so I watch their posts, and on days I've seen you post headed to the gym, and I'm like, man, I don't really feel like going today, but golly, if they going, I gotta get my butt up and go. And even when you post stuff about nutrition, I'll be pulling into a drive-through and be like, why she gotta say that? All right, well, just give me the chicken sandwich, no mayo, please. Yeah. So I think it depends on how you use social media. I've been fortunate to be able to follow people who I think have positive impacts on where I'm trying to go.
And I think it probably has to do a lot with the generation as well. Like, I see very few, so I'm 36. I see very few women like 35 and older posting as, I don't know, seductive or whatever you want to call it, as a younger generation. So I don't know if that's like a generational thing also, or women who are like, I got my sexy back and I'm going to show it off, which again, to me is like a fine line. Cause I feel like too, like I work hard for my body. I'm in the gym. I eat what I'm supposed to eat, but then I get self-conscious about posting pictures because I'm like, I don't want to come off like I'm just trying to show off my body. But then I'm like, that's stupid. I should show off my body because I work for this. So like, it's a fight in my head.
I saw a friend of mine, Victoria, I don't know if she's on, Victoria Freeman. And I've known Victoria for 20 years, a good friend of mine. And I told her that Saturday, I said, you're going through a great midlife crisis. She said, what are you talking about? I said, because everything you post now, she's totally transformed her body. She's always been in good shape, but she has totally transformed her body now. Like every day is like a photo shoot for her.
Yeah.
And you can see the confidence in the posting and things. But she's also a mom with 2 kids who I told her this weekend, I said, here you are in your 40s, but there are women who are 25 years old and you're killing them.
Right.
Why? Because she's just saying, you know what? I made a conscious decision that I'm changing my diet and I'm changing my lifestyle in the gym. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you go into the gym too many times. I can't be, I'm not working out twice a day. I'm sorry. I ain't doing it. One time is cool.
And I think that you can be classy sexy. There's a classy sexy and a trashy sexy.
That's the one word right there. I think that's the difference. Yeah. Because there are a lot of women who do it in a very classy way.
Yeah.
Shauna's always, I think her last name was Rashad, I forgot her last name. But Shauna's always posting stuff where she's in the gym and she has on like the little matching outfits, which I need to start matching when I go to the gym. I just throw on shorts, shirt, whatever I grab out of it. My stuff never matches, but I'll get better at that in 2022.
Yeah,
I'll have on Adidas and Nike and Under Armour all in the same outfit.
Apparently that's not allowed.
No.
All right. My next question, which is going to lead us into another thing. I think this one's going to be fun. So you posed the question, at what age should parents be okay with their child smoking marijuana? And so my response was, I would prefer edibles. I hate the smell of marijuana. Also assuming less chance of being laced, not 100% on that, with something else. While it's illegal, I don't think that it's okay for the simple fact of the child being arrested. Outside of that, it depends on the child and the circumstance surrounding it. And if it was helpful for a solution, I would be for it. And then you said, that's interesting that you're okay with kids taking drugs, but not wearing a mask. And then I responded, and I guess, I don't know if you didn't see it, you didn't get to respond again, but I asked if you know the benefits of marijuana. Do your children take any type, or have they ever taken any type of prescription medication or even over-the-counter medication? And I said, if so, then you're okay with children doing drugs. Gotcha. I don't know if you saw my comment.
I did, and I got a bunch of other ones, and that's the thing with social media, because I post so much, and I'll get sidetracked and don't get a chance to reply. Because a lot of times, again, I post to open people's mind and create conversation. A lot of times, honestly, a lot of situations I don't even care about. I just want to get people to engage and talk about the particular subject.
Well, that's how I know when it seems like you don't care, because then you don't comment. You just let everybody else go, and you're nowhere to be found.
I let people go because if the more traffic I get, I'm a real estate agent. So honestly, it's marketing. The more I get you on my page, the more when I say, hey, you know what? I got this house coming up for sale next week. I just need the traffic
random post in there.
So, but when it comes to marijuana, again, it goes back to how you grew up. I have a cousin who ended up being a crackhead. Lives in Chicago now, and he started off smoking weed. Then he was supposed to be the weed man. Then he was supposed to be the crack man. Well, guess what? He started smoking his own supply. Yeah. And that's when I learned that, a lot of times with marijuana is like a gateway drug where it leads to that person wanting the next high. So I was never a smoker, never will be. It's not something, I don't even like the smell of it. It doesn't do anything for
me. I hate it.
Even when I was in college and really got exposed, even when I was in high school and you go and you be like, what's that? That smells different. Like that's not a cigarette.
Yeah.
It's nothing that I was into. So now that marijuana is the new thing when it comes to me and my children, if Champ comes of age, the first question I was asking was, what did the doctor say? Is this something that you're doing because you want to feel good? Or did a doctor tell you that this is going to help you with some type of anxiety?
Yeah.
Is this going to help you with some type of mental disorder? Then I can understand that.
Yeah.
But just a lot of people use that just because they want to be high.
Yeah.
They have issues going on in life. So the way they want to do is suppress those issues by, let me go and hit this joint real quick. Well, the issue is still there.
Right.
So that's why unless there's some kind of a doctor that prescribes it and says this is something that's going to help you. And I never went to medical school.
Yeah.
So I know you went to the medical school of Google. And
kill me,
she went to the medical school of Google U, and she can tell you everything about the COVID, the COVID. And so that's why I laugh when people have all of these things, because I have friends who went to medical school. Mm-hmm. So even when COVID, before I chose to get vaccinated, I called 3 different doctors. And they're all 3 different age groups. So one is like 40s, 50s, and 60s. Mm-hmm. And I purposely was like, who else can I call? Who else can I call? And they've all not only gone and graduated from medical school, they're all still practicing medicine. Mm-hmm. And they all told me the exact same thing. And they don't even know each other. And they all told me, hey, yeah, you want to go ahead and get it. Hey, what are the long-term effects? Banks, you're going to be fine. Are you sure you're going to be fine? Case closed. So I you know what? I'll get vaccinated.
So did they answer your question about the long-term effects?
They did, but the words that they use, I don't. Yeah, I got friends who are doctors who they'll start talking to you, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm the guy who was in chemistry who it didn't work out so well. Yeah. Like, biology, like that. Those subjects didn't do well for me. There's a reason I'm in sales and not in medical school.
Yeah. So, the marijuana thing, I was never a big smoker either. I hate the smell of it. But I know people that either smoke or use edibles and stuff, and I think, like you said, depending on the reason that they're using, I also worked at a drug treatment center. So I think depending on the usage of it and whether or not, are you, like, we used to get cases all the time for parents that were smoking, but I'm like, their kids are fed, they have a house, they're going to school, they have their clothes. Like, unless that parent is using those funds to take care of their kids to go buy their marijuana, like, how is that different outside of it being illegal in Tennessee? How is that different than them drinking?
Yeah.
And it's not. People separate alcohol and marijuana like it's 2 completely different drugs.
Yeah.
And it's not. I mean, if anything, I would rather somebody smoke weed than get drunk, because you can't, again, you have to know. I mean, there's a million things that you can lace weed with as well. So that it's dangerous. It can be dangerous. But like I said, I mean, if it's prescribed by a doctor and it's going to help, if somebody was in a situation that it would be beneficial, like I know it's good for cancer patients to help with pain. So in that situation, I mean, if it's going to help you feel better, I'm not opposed to it.
And people now are picking and choosing. I got a golf buddy of mine who won't eat red meat. Mm-hmm. I said, but dude, you smoke cigarettes and you drink bourbon every day.
Oh,
you don't want to eat red meat, but you got a cup of bourbon in your hand, and you just smoked 3 cigarettes in the last 30 minutes. But you said, so what? I don't get it. So that's why people pick and choose. Like for me,
1,000%.
I try to limit my intake of red meat because I do understand that it takes longer to digest. But my perspective of health changed when I played golf about 6 years ago with a guy who's 71 years old. We're playing in Florida. It's hot. And we play 18 holes. I'm exhausted. He's 71 years old. I barely beat this guy in golf, right? And he's ready to go out and play another 18 holes. I'm like, hold on, what are you talking about? So I got to talking to him about diet. He said, it's 3 things. I said, how do you get so much energy at 71? He says, number 1, I don't do sugar. He said, I refuse to drink a Coke because I feel like your body takes so much energy to break down the sugar.
Yeah.
He says, 2, I'm not going to do red meat. He said, I don't do it. He said, every night I eat fish, I'll eat chicken, but I'm going to eat it baked. He said, the last thing, he said, believe it or not, turmeric and raw onions. This guy actually had some onions chopped up in dice. Like they were I'm like, wait a minute. And he's just sitting there. Like, I don't know if I'm going that far.
Yeah.
But he said sugar intake and no red meat. And he said fried foods, period. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's how you get so much energy. So I've tried it, I'm like my grandma used to say, I ain't there yet, thank the Lord. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to get there.
And I think diets, I am in school for a graduate certificate in holistic nutrition. So I am in
Uh-oh.
school for
See,
this.
see, see, see. See, we're getting off of Google You. I knew it. I knew it.
I do have a master's in exercise and sports science, so I know something about this stuff. But I mean, when it comes to diet, like everything has to be customized to each individual, which I could go off on a tangent about that, but I'm not going to. But it has to be customized to the individual because everything doesn't work for everybody.
I agree.
And so people just have to be careful with trying to follow, like, oh, so and so said this worked for them, so I'm going to do this, like, without knowing whether, I mean, and of course, you got to do trial and error. There's nothing wrong with trying it to see if it works for you, but don't think like that's the end all be all and going to absolutely have to do this. But you bringing up the Google You brought me to my next and last question. You posted, the biggest critics of music have never produced an album. The most knowledgeable mask and disease experts have never gone to medical school. Is experience in a field becoming a lost art? So I thought it was funny when all the people, like when people post information about COVID or about, I say COVID because that's what's been going on the last 2 years, but stuff like that. And then people like, oh, you went to Google University or whatever. I don't know if people know this, but there's this thing called Google Scholar. There's PubMed. There is a whole bunch of other links that Science Direct. I usually use Google Scholar or PubMed. But if you go onto those websites, there is peer-reviewed, random controlled trials that are available for people to read from people in the medical field, from people that are in whatever studying all these things. So I think that there's a difference between education and knowledge. Just because you didn't go to school for something doesn't mean you're not knowledgeable about it. You can learn, you can read stuff, because if you ever think about continuing education and personal development, that doesn't just mean education from a university or a college. That could be from reading books that are from people that are in that field or people that have been through that experience. So all my information that I got was from a triple board certified neurologist, Dr. Russell Saraski. Sean Stevenson is a clinical health and fitness nutrition expert. So I wasn't just like, oh, let me go, because if you go to regular Google, then you could get anything from there. You get opinion pieces, anybody could go on there and say anything. But if you go to these specific sites where it's peer reviewed, random controlled trials, there's still things that you have to be careful of, because you have to look at who funded the study. You have to know how to read the study. So like I've told people, like, if you're going to research, take a research methods class so that you understand how to read the study. You understand what the data says. You understand the outliers of the data. Like, because you can't just pick a title from the article and be like, oh, this fits what I think. Like, I'm going to post this.
True.
You have to know how to read and understand what it is that you're reading.
And so what I did, I remember you posted an article one time when we were talking about COVID, right? Keep in mind, guys, y'all know I can be a butt face. So what I like to do when people say something, let me do a little further research. So one of the articles that one time you posted, this guy was Dr. something. And I went, and the school that he went wasn't an accredited university. I was like, got her. But I need to go back and find it.
You do, because I didn't know what you're talking about.
The guy wasn't accredited. Hold on. And so right now, like you have your degree, you say exercise science, right? Okay. So if I can't question, I can question it, I guess. But the fact that you put that work in a classroom, I played college football. I've done personal training. I had my certification years ago to do personal training. But I can't take my knowledge, because you've been in the field and actually studied things with exercise science, that I wouldn't be able to relate. I can look up as many articles to go against what you said, to say, you know what, this ain't right. And I can find any article on the internet that I want. But the fact that's why when I wanted an energy drink, right? Because I'm just like, man, my energy just sucks. I can Google and find an energy drink. I called you and said, hey.
You did.
Because I know that this is something that you know, and this is something that you live. So that's why when it comes to legal representation, I have a lawyer, Andrea Perry, James Crow. I got 3 or 4 lawyers that I can call, because that's what they do for a living. I can Google everything that they tell. Matter of fact, every time I talk to my attorney, hey, this is what I think. And 99% of the time, I've been right. Because you can Google Tennessee law. But I know when I go into a courtroom and I know if I need these documents drawn up, that's what they do for a living. So that's why I kid with people when they say Google you, because I'm like, until you get in those trenches and study it, I know what it's like to be in chemistry class, because I sucked. I sucked in chemistry. So it's like when someone has studied all these different things with medicine, I defer to their opinion. Even that's why I kind of make the point about music. It's like everyone wants to criticize, and then the first thing I ask questions is like, man, Kanye West album suck. Okay, well, that's your opinion. What's the name of your album again? What's the name of your album? People want to say, like, okay, so you've never put out an album. Okay, cool. All right, so this basketball player, Cam Newton, sucks. Hey, did you make the high school team?
Yeah.
Like when people try to talk sports, and I get biased in it because I still got state records in football. I played basketball. I could put up 24 points. I still got articles. I could put up 24 points in a basketball game. I batted 478 in baseball. And I play golf competitively. I have a hole in one. I know what that feeling is like.
Yeah.
So when I get to talking to people about sports, like my son years ago, great guy, but he was helping my son with the swing. We were on our former team. And I was like, I saw him helping. I was like, I don't know about that. And I was like, man, did you do that when you were playing? He said, well, I didn't play. I said, what? He said, I played soccer. I said, wait a minute. You're helping my son with this baseball swing and you've never played? I said, man, no offense. Don't talk to my son about baseball again. Because the way I work, if you have no experience in it, you can't talk to me.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to put out an album, I want to talk to someone who's put out an album before. I'm not going to Google it and say, this is how you're supposed to put out an album. No, I want to talk to someone experienced with it. Like if you want to be a millionaire, why are you going to talk to someone that makes $10,000 a year?
Yeah.
Like you're only making 10. How are you going to tell me how to get to $1 million?
Right.
And I'm not knocking anyone before someone inboxes me and say, well, you only made $12,000. I'm not degrading because money at the end of the day, whatever you want to do with your money, that's on you. And I'm not a millionaire by any means. I'm not a millionaire yet.
Right.
But I'll be there soon.
But I think, so this is what, and I learned this the hard way because I did this. So especially the beginning of COVID, I would see something and I would just start sharing stuff without opening it and reading it.
We're all guilty of that.
I did the whole cognitive bias where like, oh, this matches what I think and feel. Let me just share it. So I made the mistake of doing that a couple of times.
Especially if the subject is catchy.
Right. So I stopped. So when I post stuff about COVID, I don't give my opinion. I just post the information. I don't care what you do with it. I post the reference. I post whatever. I post the information and I don't say anything about it because I'm not trying to convince anyone one way or the other. Like I said before, I'm just trying to give you the information. What you choose to do with the information, I don't really care. So you can read it. You can not read it. You can tell me I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, I didn't say this. I posted it and you read it or didn't read it.
It's the power of social media.
So yeah. And and people my husband has even said like, you need to stop being so brazen on social media. And I'm just like, but I'm not saying anything. I'm literally just posting the information. And honestly, and this is another reason I started this podcast. I've had conversation. I have friends that are vaccinated. I have friends that were 100% for the mask. All my friends know how I feel about it, but I've had conversations with all of my friends and we are all still friends. And they're my good friends. Like,
but that goes to the point that I was making in earlier. It's okay that we disagree on something. That is okay.
Yeah.
It's like people think that because you disagree on a particular subject, we can't talk no more.
Right.
I can guarantee you right now, I can take my phone. I got a buddy who is a die-hard Trump fan. Like Trump is God. Like he worships like everything that Trump says, does no wrong. The red hat, everything.
Yeah.
And you would think that a lot of the things that Trump has said that to me are very racist and doesn't care about minorities. That's just my own personal opinion. We're still boys. I can call him right now and say, hey, man, I got a flat. I need you to come pick me up. We just differ on political opinion and we agree to disagree.
So do y'all have those conversations? Like, have y'all got into conversations about politics, like regarding Trump or anything that y'all disagree on?
Yeah. So for example, like one of them, when the election was over, he told me that, the election was stolen because there was like 30,000 votes that showed up in Ohio. So we said, did you see these votes? He got quiet. I said, so has anyone verified the information that you're telling me right now? Like all this voter fraud, like, has it been proven? He got quiet. I said, why you keep harping on something that you did you see these votes? Did you see any of this? Like, did you see it on social? Like, show it to me, like where it happened. Couldn't do it. So I just ask people questions, and it just sounds like, well, if you put it that way, and that's why I kill people. Like, just show me, because I don't care which side, Republican, Independent, like, I hate all parties, honestly. If I'm into politics, I think it should be, regardless of what side of the aisle, if you have any type of legislation, put it in the middle without saying if it's Republican or Democrat, and let's vote on it.
Right.
Because it seems like everybody just wants to take the side based on party.
Right.
Well, what about the people? But that's the point of the government. They don't want the people to work together.
Yeah, I could go off on a tangent with that too. Like this guy said something to me the other day about something that was like very right wing. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if you're right wing. And I was like, I'm very, very centered. Like, I don't
I'm
really
down
have
the
a
middle.
left
I
or
just
a
want to
right.
know what's right and what's wrong. Like I'm so sick of this left wing, right wing. Do y'all know those wings belong to the same bird? Like, has you guys ever realized that? People say they're on the left side, the right side. Do y'all know it's the same bird?
Right.
So if the wings don't work together, how can the bird progress?
And that's why it doesn't. That's why we're where we are. Well, that is all the questions I had for you. Did you have any other questions or topics you wanted to cover?
No, keep doing the things you're doing in health and fitness, because your posts inspire me. And I gotta say, it's not a lot of females who that I've seen, that I follow on social media, that can put content out the way that you do. So keep doing and keep timing in. If you guys ever want to follow me, go to thedadtalk.com. That's where you can get my merchandise for my kids and what I'm trying to do in the community as a father.
So real quick, I've seen the E and the Dad shirt. So are those your children's businesses?
No, the Eat started because Champ wanted one. My daughter already has her design for her little clothing line. So the purpose of the Dad Talk was just to inspire dads. It took me 2 years to come up with this design. Yeah. And the Let's Eat thing was something my son wanted to do. So I'm using that to try to teach him how to build a business.
Yeah.
And so I loaned him his first money to buy his first little hoodie. That. And then when you sell your hoodies, okay, what is your net? He's like, but Dad, I made $40 when I sold it. No, you did not make $40. That hoodie cost you $24. You only made $16. He said, well, Dad, how am I going to buy the next hoodie? I said, exactly. You don't even have enough. So you got to mass produce, but you need to pay me my money back. I said, I'm only charging you 1% interest on this loan. I
love that.
So he gets a kick out of saying most of his friends have them. But again, we're just trying to spread that message of teaching kids in youth sports. It's just about effort, attitude, and teamwork. It's not about wins and losses.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming out and joining my podcast. I will definitely have you on again. I think it was a great conversation. So I appreciate you coming out.
Pleasure's mine. Peace.